and it was then that I knew about the public nudity laws. I didn't know about that.
Well,
I'm sorry. Are we on? I'm sorry.
We're on.
I had no. Sorry.
So I saw this T-shirt the other day.
It's going to drive me crazy.
On the front of the T-shirt, it says, the Republicans spent $4 billion on 8 Senate seats. And you turn around, and the back of the T-shirt says, and President Obama spent 59 cents on a veto pen. In other words, honestly speaking, because remember the Democrats had 60 when Bush, I think Bush was president when Democrats had 60 votes and really couldn't accomplish anything. Well, they had 59 votes, and the Republicans had 40, and a guy named Joe Lieberman, who threatened to veto anything that had a public option in it. So they really didn't have. So even with like 59 or 60 votes, you really can't do anything with the presidents of the other party.
Listen, if I was a Democrat right now, and there were more Republicans in Washington than there have been since World War II,
still 53,
I would be grasping for something positive as well. And so the fact that basically you got your clock clean from coast to coast, except of course in the nutmeg state, I don't think I would be bragging or making any T-shirts or anything like that right about now, because
you don't have to brag.
The entire country, as Barack Obama clearly said, I might not be on the ballot, but my policies are. Well, yes, your policies were on the ballot and were resoundingly rejected.
Well, here's something.
So you can keep your veto pen, and we'll see how that plays out.
And it works pretty well because you'll never get the 2/3 to override in the House and the Senate.
Yeah, and we'll continue with these rotten policies, and maybe we'll have another election in another 2 years, and we'll have more Republicans.
Maybe one day you'll even get to 60 like the Democrats did.
Yeah, I know, because for years and years the tradition in the Senate was that it was something called like cloture, or
you need 60 to have for cloture
until your buddy
to shut down discussion.
Senator Reid broke that tradition and said we need to get these judges approved. So I'm just going to ram it through, and to heck with tradition, and we're just going to do it without the 60 votes.
Both parties talked for years, probably for decades, about something called the nuclear option.
Yeah, he pushed the button.
But both parties talked a lot about it. When the Republicans had 50 votes, they talked about or 50 votes in Dick Cheney. They talked about the nuclear option, pushing the button. There was a lot of threatening.
But they never did it.
A lot of threatening went back and forth.
Threatening, schmettening, they never did it, because you see, as Republicans, we have this love for transparency, for democracy, for protecting the minority.
It's not a democracy, it's a republic.
Well, either way, it's in our name. We're Republicans. We love Republic. We like everyone to have a voice, not just might makes right, and not having the minority to have a voice. So we never did do that, but y'all did. And actually, now that we're seeing all that went into passing Obamacare, and the IRS attacking citizens for their political views, and the NSA investigating Fox reporters because of their political views, I'm beginning to think that the Democrats are pretty heavy-handed, borderline fascists, that once they're in control of Washington, seem to want to dictate how this whole democracy freedom thing unfolds. And guess what? It came back and bit them right in the rear end, because I don't think Americans like that. Americans like
Where were we back in 2006? Because in 2006 you had pretty much the reverse situation. You had a president whose popularity rating wasn't 42. President Bush's popularity rating during his final 3 years in office was 35. So his popularity ratings make President Obama look like everybody's favorite. And all the Republicans that ran in 2006 pretty much did the same thing that the Democrats did this year. They ran away from Bush. Please don't show up at our rallies. Please don't support us, because your name is poison.
Right. The best was when they asked these Senate candidates, did you vote for Barack Obama? They're like, I can't really say.
But that's basically the same thing in reverse of what happened in 2006? Pretty much?
It pretty much is that. I would say in 2006, the country was pretty war-weary. There were some very unpopular things that George Bush was involved with.
Tried to privatize Social Security.
Okay. I'm sure there's a lot of things. It's not uncommon.
That didn't help.
It's not uncommon to have the second first 4 years of a presidency, that midterm election, usually people get hammered, except for your boy Bill Clinton. And your boy Bill Clinton in the second administration.
Well,
in
not
the
my
midterm,
boy. Not even. I don't even like him. But go ahead.
Well, our boy, our former president. Maybe his wife will be our next president.
America's poster child for oral sex under the desk.
But by the way, did you see Monica Lewinsky's coming out and chatting? Anyways, but he actually gained seats in the midterm election on his second 4 years in office. And I think that was.
We got to move the popcorn.
The Republicans,
because it's progressive popcorn today. But go ahead.
Well, we do have the Two Ferns, right?
Yeah.
By the way, they stole that show, Two Ferns. They get Obama, they get Brad Pitt, you get me.
Yeah.
So it's quite a letdown. But we do have Two Ferns and a black.
Well, we have two plants anyway. They're not ferns.
They're kind of furnished
That one
looking.
looks like.
That's a variegated hostas over there.
Yeah, hosta. I thought so.
And this is something. This I think is a plant that they showed in the movie where the pods are, the seed pods.
Oh yes.
Yeah, the seed pods in where the pod would grow a human being inside of it, and you go to sleep.
The movie Aliens or something.
Yeah, help us with this audience. It's the
Little Step of Horrors.
The little tendrils go out. Go ahead.
Sigourney Weaver and Alien. Any
Yeah.
of you that have been in a birthing room when your wife or significant other is giving birth? Almost exactly. That alien coming out, it's almost exactly. I don't want to frighten anyone because childbirth is a beautiful thing. But
Except for the ugliness of it.
It's quite an event. But I digress.
Have you been there for your kids being born?
Yes,
Excellent.
everyone.
I was too.
Here was
Me
a
too.
good one. Dr.
Except for my
Appleby,
adopted
he
son.
might be out there.
Yeah.
He says, on my son
Yeah.
who got born, he says, do you want to cut the umbilical cord? And I'm always up for new adventures. I'm like,
cool.
Yeah, okay, I'll cut the umbilical cord. That's great, very
Yeah.
exciting, a moment in time.
Yeah.
Then he doubles down. He goes, you want to do the circumcision? And I'm like, whoa, that we better make sure is right. So
you didn't want to be a moil, huh?
I did not want to be a moil, which reminds me of a joke. It has to do with a wallet and a suitcase, but I won't get into it. But
you could.
No. But I did not do the circumcision.
Okay.
Apparently, there's have you ever seen little fruit balls? that tool you use.
The scoop or the
That's
melon
involved
baller.
in the
melon baller.
in that. It's a melon baller.
Out.
Yes. It's,
It's funny because in Italy, men don't tend to get circumcised, so a lot of them do it when they're adults.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
got to be
That would hurt.
painful.
Yeah.
I mean,
that
it's
would hurt.
bad enough when you're an infant.
Yeah.
But to have it done when you're an adult.
Yeah.
Man,
I heard a joke
you.
along those
Europe.
lines.
Yeah.
And it's the nation of Israel, and the Jews are praying to God. And
Yeah.
they're going, all these Arab countries around here, they've got all the oil, we've got no oil, and I've got to cut my what? That's a joke. But, yeah.
I had a question. If you were talking about Republicans and
Yes.
Democrats.
Anything to get off the circumcision.
No, I was just saying, you said the
Go right ahead. Republicans,
tend
Democrats.
to be about the minorities.
Well,
Weren't you saying representing the minorities?
in the case of the Senate,
Oh, okay.
the Republicans were a minority. And there are certain voting rights and traditions within these governing bodies whereby the rights of the minorities, in this case the Republicans, although not after last Tuesday, are protected. And so for certain things like confirming judges to lifetime appointments, these are big things. It's not a simple majority, it's 60%.
Advise and consent. Although for most of America's history, advise and consent basically meant you give the president your thoughts on their appointee, and then you consent. You don't fight them tooth and nail all the way.
You'd be like Judge Bork. I think would be a perfect example
there's a case where the
when
Democrats did it.
Reagan wanted to appoint a judge, and then the Democrats just advised and then approved. Isn't that how that went out?
Not at all.
Oh no, you're right. There was personality assassination associated with.
You don't have to get
Bork.
snarky, but your point is
go to the internet. Google Judge Bork and see what images come up.
Understood. And
actually, Bork is now used as a verb.
A verb came out of that when people get
Bork.
people get borked.
Got borked.
Okay.
When somebody gets borked. Yeah.
How does
And
someone get booked?
likewise, Clarence Thomas.
Clarence
Thomas got beat up pretty
Santorum,
bad.
as far as that goes.
Clarence Thomas got beat up pretty bad. So it rubs both ways.
Yeah, except when the Democrats are in power and the Republicans insist on their rights, all of a sudden it's, intrusive and not allowing government to work. But when the Democrats do it, there's this inflated self-righteousness that says, well, of course, we don't want the first African-American to be on the Supreme Court because he doesn't line up with our liberal views. So we're going to come at him with everything we can.
Isn't that human nature, though?
I don't think it's human nature. I think it's fascism. That's what I think.
Really?
If the liberals don't get what they want, they start bringing up pubic hairs on Coke cans, stuff like that.
Yes.
Or blowjobs under the desk.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm just saying they'll throw everything at it. And I loved when Clarence Thomas came out and he said the following. He said, "Some people cannot deign to think of an uppity black speaking for himself." So it was an electronic lynching of an uppity black that thought for himself. And that wasn't directed towards Republicans. That was directed towards Democrats.
There's a lot of uppity blacks speaking for themselves on the Democratic side, too. Jesse Jackson. Al Sharpton. And I think Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson probably get as much flack as Clarence Thomas does, or has, right or wrong.
Barack Obama.
Aren't they both kind of vilified by people who don't agree with them?
I mean, I don't know. To be honest with you, this is what I think.
I hear a lot of talk about,
it could be like rose-colored glasses.
I hear a lot of talk about Jesse Jackson from the right wing and some pretty harsh words. Likewise, a guy Al Sharpton, who is he's not the ugliest looking guy in the world, but he's pretty close. But he gets a lot of flack from people that don't agree with him.
Here's what I think. When you're talking about what I would call ad hominem attacks, in other words, I disagree with Jesse Jackson, and I think he's a rabble-rouser, and Sharpton, I liked him better, heavy and in pantsuits or tracksuits or whatever. I don't see that as much.
A shadow of his former self, isn't he?
He loves
whatever. I just don't see that as much, to be honest with you. And it could be viewing the world through rose-colored glasses. But generally speaking, I think the Republicans don't go after the person so much. They just want to talk about the policy. And every time someone says, like Landau down in Louisiana, that says, well, the reason I'm not doing good is because, women and minorities haven't done well in the South. I mean, every time that happens, we're like, what the heck are you talking about? We disagree with you because you were the deciding vote on Obamacare. We told you this was going to happen, and you're not going to be a senator anymore.
Right.
That's how democracy works.
Aren't we basically saying the same thing, but from a different perspective?
No, what I'm
We're
saying
making the same claim, but from a different perspective.
What I'm saying is Republicans are as pure
Thomas,
as the driven
Jesse
snow,
Jackson.
and Democrats are terrible. That's what I'm saying. I don't think we agree.
Okay.
No, but I do think
might be a bit of a disagreement there.
In the Republican right now, we have a Republican senator, a wonderful Republican female senator voted in from Kansas, but she doesn't line up with the Republican view that women are victims and there's a war on women.
Even the Democratic view.
Absolutely. Right. This is all this.
Well, you said Republican, you meant Democratic.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
That's
the Democrat. Well, the Democratic view that Republicans have a war on women and that they're put upon, and a woman can't stand up for herself. She needs big government to come along and help her out. And here you have this woman. She's been in combat. She's a colonel in the military. She's really smart. She knows what she's doing, and she gets elected. And they're saying, the Democrat, it was Harkin that came out and said, I don't care if she looks like Taylor Swift, and stuff like that, talking about her, the way she looks, and all that kind of stuff. It's really, you guys better be careful, because you might have pushed this war on women a little bit too far. Because the Republicans just basically respect women for their accomplishments.
Not in general.
And I think in general
Not
they
in
do.
General,
well, then how do you explain the senator from Kansas?
I think you picked one person out, which we will definitely both agree on that they've been misrepresented and treated badly. Tammy, I'm trying to think of her last name. She has Henry Hyde's old seat in Illinois. She's a decorated war veteran. She's a double amputee. And she got a lot of flack from Republicans. So I don't think it really lines up. I don't think there's any necessarily war on women from Republican Party or the Democratic Party. I think it's more the Republicans and the Democrats. But it's from both sides.
There isn't a war on women. Vast viewing audience out there. Young lady right here on the table. There's no war on women. There just isn't.
Why do salaries don't line up?
Right, that's
properly?
another thing too. Yeah, why do women get?
Why do they get paid less?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that all about?
What, women getting paid less?
Yep.
Are you talking about in the Obama administration? Because they actually did a study of that.
Right
and
now,
women in the Obama administration, in that little microcosm, get paid less for the same job.
Right.
Which is typical of America.
I can't believe that. It's
Which
terrible.
is typical of America, correct?
So why is that? Why
Which is
there
typical
less
of America,
pay for
right or wrong?
Equal work.
Don't women get paid still about,
Okay.
I think they're up to about 72, 73 cents.
If
When I was
you're-
growing up, it was like 65 cents.
Right.
Now it's up to 72
Yeah.
for the same job.
I think women should be paid as much as the value of their job.
Right.
Formerly, I
As much as a
think the
man.
CEO of Hewlett Packard was making millions and millions of dollars.
Carly Fiorita, who ran for
Governor out in California.
governor in California.
But didn't pay her Social Security on her maid or something like that. But
And nobody liked her.
I love the business world. There's a meritocracy out there,
Mm-hmm.
and you get paid as much as you're worth.
Nah, I would disagree on that because somebody like let's take a Democrat and let's take a Republican. Let's even it out. I'm going to say George Soros and Mitt Romney, or I could say Warren Buffett and Mitt Romney, both very wealthy individuals, and they don't pay women equally. Women don't rise. Women don't rise up
here's the
fast,
thing.
and they do as fast in organizations as men do. When women are uppity, when they're aggressive, they're what do they call them? Witches, probably something like that.
Or the bee.
When men are aggressive,
bitches.
it's something that's looked on positively.
Right, they're
When women are
respected,
aggressive, there's something wrong with women being aggressive apparently, because they're called some pretty vile names for being aggressive. People look at men and women
Like a double
differently.
standard.
Double
Yeah.
standard. Thank you.
Well,
And it's not just Democrats and it's not just Republicans. It's a sociological thing, and probably all over the world. Probably not as bad in America as a lot of other countries, except for England and France and all the countries in Europe who do pay women more on an equitable basis. Thank you. An equitable basis. But America's pretty good about that. It's getting better, but it still has a long way to go. And I think we have to recognize that women don't get paid on an equal basis for the same work. We're getting there.
okay, so
We're getting there.
let's stipulate that.
Go ahead.
Women get paid 70-something%, and men get paid.
Right.
I mean, I think that there's a free market out there, and if a woman exceeds, and I mean,
Right.
for example,
But they don't, because there's your numbers to prove that it doesn't happen.
All right, but if
Numbers
women-
don't lie.
Yeah, they don't lie, but they have to be put into context, is what I would say. If a woman is doing the same job as a man, she
Yeah.
should get paid equal.
Yeah.
If she does it better, she should get paid a lot more.
Right, yeah.
If she doesn't do it as well, or doesn't succeed,
Right.
or hasn't managed her career, she should be paid less.
It should be on
And
the
there
merit
should be-
basis. Agreed.
Okay,
Right.
so that's basically all we're saying.
But
You know?
I'm saying that's a noble gesture. It's
Right.
we agree upon. We all
Okay.
agree upon it 100%. But it doesn't happen.
Okay,
in America.
here's where the Democratic Party takes this unit of information that we're agreeing on. We're stipulating, okay, there's this
Yeah.
disparity. They will say then they will say the Republican Party has a war on women. Why don't you see there's this breakdown in how much women are paid, how much men are paid? Vote for us, and we're going to force the free market to pay you more. That's what we're going to do. We're going to force them to set their wages. We're going to tear down the wage payer
Which
to
is
somehow
what-
lift up the wage earner.
And we've had a minimum wage in America for decades.
Right, now
But
they
I
wanna
think
increase it.
I think that's the wrong approach. I think that you should just open up opportunities for men and women as much as possible, and let the chips fall where they may. And don't have some overarching big brother government coming in and dictating to business or anyone else what a value of a person is. That's what I think.
So if we took this Ayn Rand kind of approach, that women would be treated equally and paid equally.
It's ironic that you bring up Ayn Rand, because last time I checked, she's a female.
Yeah.
And she was an incredibly
was
well-read, popular author. And yet
There's a lot
she
of
was
popular
a female.
authors out there.
Yeah, but did she get a lot of money and be a popular author because she's a woman, and some government said, hey, we have to buy as many books from her as we do from men because otherwise it's not fair? Or was she just a really great writer? Whether you agree with her philosophy or not, did she tell a compelling story about Atlas Shrugs or some of these other
Right.
books they wrote? So should we dictate then how much writers should be paid based on if they're a woman woman, or if they're a man, or if they're a minority, or should we let the market bear?
That's clearly free market.
Well, a lot of women would write under men. They'd change their names so the public wouldn't know if they were men or women.
So they had a better chance to make as much money, get as much respect as a male author.
But the head of your party, that lady, something Schultz, with the curly hair and all, she said that Republicans are grabbing the hair of women and trying to pull them back. That's what she said.
Who said that?
The lady, Schultz. I don't know if she's ahead of your party anymore, but she was 2 weeks ago. She's probably ought to punch up that resume a bit.
But what about, don't they say Republicans want to take away the reproductive rights of women? Like they don't want to pay for their birth control? Isn't that a complaint of...
Well, that's another one.
There's a disagreement.
Sarah Fluck.
That's another...
Remember Sarah Fluck? I think she was like a 39-year-old college student.
Watch your language.
Okay. And no, she was like, she was, the belle of the ball because she said, the government should pay for my birth control pills.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you don't pay for my birth control pills, then you're somehow trying to control my reproductive rights.
Right.
I don't know how much birth control pills cost, but apparently they're not all that expensive.
No.
Right.
And I mean, what the hell? I mean, does the government need to buy your birth control now? And if not, it's a war on women? I mean, are you kidding me? Women, you're a strong lady, right? So you should be insulted that that there's going to be some government that has to buy your birth control pills. Why don't you just
abstain?
Screw off government and just leave us alone, defend the borders, deliver the mails, and don't get involved in my birth control purchases or non-purchases.
Well, most insurance plans do pay for Viagra, don't they?
Well, now we're getting to something that I think is vitally necessary for the future of America.
Okay.
That was a main complaint of women.
That's your parallel in my mind's eye.
The government will pay for a man's Viagra, but not a woman's birth control.
There you go.
Okay, how about this? Why doesn't everyone just buy their own birth control?
Yes.
Leave the government out of it altogether.
No, I agree.
Of course.
Or
why don't we just leave the government out of birth control? Why don't we not have people that run the Department of Motor Vehicles dictating what we're going to do with our jiggly parts? How about that? How about the government minds their own business?
But the fact is they don't.
Welcome to the Republican Party.
The fact is many insurance companies that pay for Viagra refuse to pay for birth control. Are you saying that we should force insurance companies to pay for both or pay for neither?
This is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Government, get the hell out of everything. You make everything bad. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Really?
And so don't have the government come in and dictate you should pay for this hip surgery but not that hip surgery.
Right.
You should pay for a breast exam now but not a breast exam then. How about this? How about we go back to just having a doctor and the patient? And they can sit in the room and they can talk about all the private little stuff that has to do with your own health. How about that? How about the government get the hell out of the way?
Yeah.
How about that?
And just
welcome to the Republican Party. That's what we're saying.
And maybe healthcare could be more affordable.
No, wouldn't be.
Of course not. Don't you realize that if you give your money to the government, then everything becomes much more affordable. That's what happens. You got to understand that.
Well, in fact, it does, because if you look from the other direction and you look back to when HMOs came into existence, and I don't blame Richard Nixon for it, although it happened during his tenure, because Nixon did a lot of good things in retrospect.
EPA.
Nixon went the APA,
Workers' Comp,
Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah.
He went to China. Yeah. He had dialogue with Russia, so he did some good things.
But what he did wrong was he sent the IRS out against his political opponents.
No, he actually
targeted them.
No, he actually
imagine that. Wait! It's coming to me now. That just happened. That's right, Lois Lerner. Oh, that's right. She pleaded the fifth. What happened to Nixon? That's right. He was impeached. What's happened to Obama? Well, Obama gives me a tingly feeling up my leg, so the media is not going to touch their golden boy. And meanwhile, he's doing.
Remember what happens when I do this? Remember what happens? You know what that means?
I have very poor impulse control.
Thank you. You do. But we love you anyway.
Here, I'm going to eat popcorn. That'll get me to stop talking.
Yeah.
We love you anyway. But the HMOs came into existence during the Nixon administration. Yeah. And that's when healthcare costs began to skyrocket. HMOs were supposedly going to be a private way to control healthcare costs.
To prevent doctors from charging exorbitant amounts for procedures.
To make healthcare better. And in fact, ever since then, healthcare has been on an incredible upward slide in costs. So,
But it can be more affordable. In Europe, healthcare is much more affordable than
and
here.
that's because in Europe they have, what do they call it?
Socialized medicine.
Socialized medicine, as opposed to anti-socialized medicine. And I trust that we're all, that none of us here are socialists, but probably none of us here are anti-socialists either.
I am definitely anti-socialist.
Oh, you wouldn't
Really?
like it?
Yeah, I think government running your whole life.
No,
is a big mistake.
I mean the term anti-social is what I'm getting at.
I'm not anti-social.
Thank
I'm a very
you.
social person.
Thank you.
I'm
No, I'm
anti-socialism.
saying if you're going to have a patient and a doctor sitting in a room and talking, then
Yep.
the doctor should have to be more affordable. Then you could have
Yep.
that relationship. Yes, I agree.
That's a great thing, and luckily here in Bethel,
Right.
we do have amongst 3 very good old-style family doctors, Dr. Volpentesta,
Right.
have
Dr. Blum.
Dr. Blum, and also Dr. Shapiro, Dave Shapiro.
Right.
And Dr. Blum is my doctor, and Dr. Blum, well, he's not taking any more patients on, so sorry, folks, because all 3 of them are getting on in years. They're getting, they're all in their, let's say that none of them are spring chickens, although they all look pretty good. They'll take pretty good care of themselves
Yeah.
along with their patients. But they're guys that you can sit down with and spend 20, 30 minutes talking about. And that's the way doctors used to be. What changed was, I think, a couple of things. Doctors ran up an incredible amount of debt in getting their education.
Education, yeah.
And started off their careers with tremendous weight of debt on their back. So they kind of have to stray away from having that relationship, that close long-term relationship with their patients, and kind of have to shuffle people in and out. It just happened. There's no blame to be found either way on it. Although I think HMOs have kind of had a lot to do with that. We're going to break away now. We're going to come back. We're going to do a second show, and we're fun.
Fun, really fun.
All right.
And I'm glad you're in. I just
Thanks.
want to go over what we talked about. Circumcision, healthcare, Republican politics.
Doesn't get any better than this, does it?
Quite a spectrum.
We don't have any circumcision.
No circumcision stories.
No. Well, except for my son, which
Yeah.
that was a
We're
pretty
not
good story.
going to lay a baby across the
Little
table.
melon ball
and
thing
call
was a
it.
special tool. I
We're not going to lay a
looked
baby
away.
across the table and bring the moil in.
Boy, did he cry too.
Was there blood involved?
Oh, blood!
Oh my God!
God.
Oh, you never saw the Seinfeld episode. You can imagine how painful it is. I mean, thankfully we're tiny infants when it happens, so we kind of forget
Just
about
a
it.
distant, ancient memory.
Yeah.
But you can imagine if we saw it actually happening to some poor little lad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be.
Bye.
Bye. I have a question.